Okay, so I finally got the opportunity to go see Alien Romulus, and I had a couple things I wanted to talk about. Just out the gate, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers, but I'll try to keep it spoiler free because I really do feel like this film punches the hardest where you least expect it. But the Alien franchise is a beloved franchise of mine. I've always been a fan, but it feels as if it's gotten somewhere kind of lost along the way. The first two entries in the franchise are some of my favorite films of all time, horror aside. And it just, Ridley Scott and James Cameron did such a good job opening and introducing us to this incredible world and showing us that it can be both action-packed and frightening. And this film really feels like, and I'm gonna be careful not to say a return to form, because I don't think it really is a return to form. I think it touches on some nostalgia bits and it touches on some familiar notes that you're obviously gonna see. But man, you just got to see this movie. It's the director Alvarez is so you can tell he's passionate about the film. He uses a lot of real animatronics and real effects rather than special effects and CGI. He does a really good job of emphasizing the horror bits, giving you a little bit of everything. He opens the world to kind of new avenues, new places. We get to see deeper into the corporation and how, Wayland is trapping people and how they're, holding people ransom basically to work. And we get to see more of the corporate side. We get to see more of the space side of things. And then I just wanted to touch on like two small things. One of them is cosmic horror. And what is cosmic horror? And cosmic horror is the fear of the unknown. And, if you Google it, thank you, Google AI, it's a subgenre of horror fiction and weird fiction that emphasizes the horror of the unknowable and incomprehensible. So it's, introduced by, many people attribute it to Lovecraftian horror, but just that fear of the unknown and seeing something that you shouldn't be seeing and understanding things you shouldn't be understanding. And that's something that I really feel like is captured in this film for the first time in a long time. I love this film. There's I think a hardship that comes with rebooting a franchise. Not that this is a reboot in any way, but when you kind of come back to a franchise after it's been stagnant for a bit, or you want to reinvent the franchise, I think two things happen. One, sometimes the material becomes too different from what we're used to. And a lot of times that ends, terribly. And then conversely, sometimes they're too safe. I've seen reboots where it's kind of like we're kind of just watching the same thing we've already seen. They're kind of too scared to show you anything new. Horror films in general really struggle with sequels. Most horror sequels, in my opinion, I'm just not usually a fan of horror sequels. I think that they struggle. They usually show you things you've already seen, or they double down on concepts you've already seen and they try to make them grandiose, and sometimes it's just too much. This film strikes such a nice balance, and there is a non-spoiler sequence in this film. There is the entire time that I sat down in the theater to watch it, I wanted to see something new. I didn't want to just see xenomorphs. I wanted to see something new. I want to see something we've never seen before. Now, granted, the film does a lot of the same that we've seen. It's got the face huggers, it's got the, the synthetics, it's got the xenomorphs in there and stuff, but and all that, the whole derelict spaceship and all that stuff. But I wanted to see something new, and there is a incredible payoff in this film where it's awesome, and I highly urge you. I have seen a lot of horror in my days. I am in my mid-30s, and it's hard to scare me. It's hard to frighten me. And there is a scene in that film that, and those of you that have seen it know what scene I'm talking about. But there's one particular scene that really, it like made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And it's been a long time since I felt like that. So I feel very passionate about this film. I'm a huge fan of Alien. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I think you won't be disappointed. And I hope that the director I hope Alvarez keeps this franchise and continues to work on it going forward. There's one more thing I want to touch on too, was in that whole cosmic horror sequence or that whole cosmic horror vibe. There's a part of this film that I think is, I want you to take notice to the latter part of the film, like the final sequence, the final like push. Pay attention to that sequence. There is a lot of really wide open shots conflicting with these really dark closed shots. And I mean, maybe this is just me reading way too much into cinematography and I could just be way overanalyzing this, but it felt like that whole ending sequence was this dynamic between being closed off to what we don't know and being trapped in what we don't know. And then it's being conveyed and showing us this huge expanse of the infinite space. And some of these shots really parallel one another, where there's a part where they're in this kind of, they're in like a sand pit or a dirt pit where there's been mining or excavation of some sort. Or I'm trying to remember what the actual soil is, but there's a sequence in the film where they're in this dirt and this sand. And it kind of felt like this dark, almost representation of what we fear as space. Like there's these many grains of sand in the ocean. There's these many stars in the sky. And it felt like this really interesting parallax. And they drag you through this sequence, giving you just enough information to fear what's around the corner. And I love this. It's, in my opinion, one of my favorite scenes that I've seen in a film recently. It's been a long time since I felt like that. I had a big, huge smile on my face the entire time. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for tuning into Ghost Man Horror. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.